UPDC recently launched the development of Pinot Prime Estate, which marked the resurgence of UPDC on the real estate development scene. Pinot Prime Estate is a site and service scheme located in Lekki Peninsula 2, right beside our existing Pinot Beach Estate. The project has advanced and is expected to be completed by Q1 2023. As the company is shifting from a recapitalization mindset to growth and profitability, we continue to improve the brand identity of UPDC as a modern, highly experienced real estate company which can deliver quality world-class properties in time and at the right price. Similarly, plans are underway to reposition our Festival Hotel at a high-class conference in business and consumer-friendly hotel. The company continues to focus on achieving profitability in the short to medium term and is aggressively focusing on activities that will improve revenue as well as cost reduction across all its business lines. Housing deficit in Nigeria has been a major challenge. The Federal Mortgage Bank records indicate a deficit of at least 28 million housing units in 2022, and it is widely acknowledged that a concerted effort is required to reduce the growing deficit. It is therefore apt, as we celebrate UPDC at 25, to consider housing development initiate imperatives in Nigeria. Our speakers are well seasoned with sufficient wealth of experience to adequately deconstruct the topic and share deep insight on how the issues can be combated. I encourage you to sit back and enjoy the session. As we celebrate this great company at 25, we cannot but thank the past members of board, management and staff who have contributed to the success of the company. Without all their remarkable contributions, we would not be celebrating this great success today. We also thank all current directors, management, and staff of the company who are working tirelessly to keep moving the company forward. We cannot forget our customers, business partners, and all other stakeholders who have stood by us over the years. Thank you all for your attention. Morning.
Let's have another powerful round of applause for the chairman, Mr. Wole Oshin. Thank you, sir. Sir, while you were going through your welcome address, in fact, I was amazed I'd almost forgotten the fantastic journey UPDC has done over the years. If you look at housing delivery, you've done amazingly well. Let's give them another round of applause, please. I would like to invite the CEO, Mr. Oduayo Ojo, to give us a summary. And I'm sure you guys will be blown away of what UPDC has been able to do over the years. I was sharing with somebody not too long ago that whilst I was leaving school, UPDC was the number one company I wanted to work for. Unfortunately, I wasn't that lucky, but my resume, Mr. Ojo, is still here. It's never too late. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Opatola. There's still opportunity for you to work for UPDC, if we can afford you. So I would like to say a hearty welcome to everyone for making out the time to join us today, both physically and virtually, to celebrate 25 years of UPDC. I would also like to stand on the well-established protocol set by our chairman, Mr. Wole Oshin. It's a pleasure to be here. So I have a short presentation just to take us through UPDC over the years. And if you can just put up the slides. So, let me see how this works. So if you can go to the next slide, please. I think we're having a slight technical challenge. We'll just give them a few moments. So if we can put up the slides, please.
Okay, well, we'll give them a few minutes to sort out the technical issues. So I'm thinking, should we have a pop quiz? No, it's not about my CV, but I would like to find out who knows the most about UPDC. Who can tell me when the bond was? Okay, I can see they are pointing to someone that looks like a guru in UPDC affairs. Who knows when the UPDC REIT was floated?
Show of hands.
Show of hands, please. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Mayaki. I even know more than the REITs. Because I started the whole process as far back as 1995 when I joined UAC. Then it was a division of the company, and I was hired as the divisional managing director of UAC Properties. Between then and 1997, when we converted to a PLC, we're struggling to establish ourselves. I made one project on ground. That was number 426 McDonald in Ikoyi. At that time, Ikoyi was gradually evolving into a high-rise area. And that was one of the very, very first few high-rise buildings that was done. Over the years, to cut the story short, we went through a lot of recessions. If I remember when we did Niger Towers in 2005, we could not sell. These were 60 flats we had just completed, and we ran into the crisis of 2005. We couldn't sell. So we had to beg Mike Adenuga to take two blocks at a cost. And the remaining one, we were making a loss of 1 flat per month. It was terrible. But we survived it and then moved on to do more greater things. The Victoria Mall Plaza, where KPMG is now, and then we have an office in residential block. And we're going to do our second hotel as the third phase of the project, but unfortunately, it has not materialized up to today. I want to congratulate those who have succeeded us for the good work they are doing, and I thank you for inviting me.
Round of applause.
Thank you for inviting me and for sharing in our history. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Back in the days, I used to hear Oga Miyaki Otumba. Nice to meet you, sir. a pleasure. It will be lovely to hear the story one of these days. Good.
All right, thank you. Please, can we give Mr. Steve Mayaki a round of applause? He's taking us down the memory lane, and it's made my job here slightly easier. All right, so I would just like to remind us of who we are as UPDC as currently structured today. UPDC clearly is the foremost real estate development, management, and investment company in Nigeria, and is still the only listed property development company in Nigeria to date. Over the years, UPDC has diversified our product offerings into different areas and the different value chains of the real estate industry. We are known primarily for our property development business, and we've built several different estates, as Mr. Steve Mayaki rightly alluded to, over the last 25 years. Also, we've delved into development management in more recent times, where we've seen a dearth of real estate development skills in the industry, and UPDC being at the forefront of delivering high-quality products, have gone to the market to say, if you have the funds, if you have your land, if you have your investment, we can do it for you. You don't have to do it on your own. For slightly considerable amounts, we can help you navigate this treacherous real estate industry and deliver a high-quality product. Also, we've gone into asset management, where we assist organizations and family home funds and institutional investors who have significant real estate holdings in managing their real estate assets for improved performance. We've also hived out our facility management business. As the chairman has alluded to, we now have a separate company known as UPDC Facility Management Limited that focuses primarily on facility management of owned and third-party properties. And then hospitality is a business that we're also into. As a matter of fact, the hotel where this summit is holding, Festival Hotel, is one of UPDC's properties. So in terms of a snapshot of what the company has achieved over the years, we've built thousands of housing units across several regions of the country. We've built homes, different homes in Lagos, Abuja, Asaba in Delta State, Rivers, Cross Rivers, and we continue to increase our footprints, Ibadan in Oyo State. And, you know, without a doubt, UPDC has one of the largest footprints in the real estate industry in Nigeria today. We also developed a shopping mall just right opposite the Festival Hotel called Festival Mall, where we have the likes of ShopRite and a lot of other retail outlets currently operating today. We have in excess of 35 different estates under management in our facility management arm, and we own the Festival Hotel and continue to run it as one of the best conferencing and leisure facilities, hospitality facilities in Lagos. We have in excess of 22 billion naira under our assets that we manage to date. But just taking us through the memory lane and the milestones that UPDC has been able to achieve over the years. So this has been categorized into seasons, so to speak, of UPDC. At inception, between 1997 and the year 2000, UPDC was conceived as a separate company from the UAC property division and became a standalone company. And in 1998, the company was listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and is still the only one listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, which is no mean feat in itself. Between 2000 and 2010, actually in 2002, UPDC acquired this hotel. Then it was known as the Dobra Hotel. It was acquired from the federal government of Nigeria, and it was remodeled and turned around over the years to what we now have today as Festival Hotel. In 2013, UPDC floated the first REIT, which is the correct answer to the question asked by Mr. Opatola. And it's still the best performing real estate investment trust in the market, and it is also acclaimed to be the largest real estate investment trust in West Africa. Between 2016 and 2019, we carved out UPDC FM as a standalone business, and we also raised a bond from the debt capital market in 2016 to strengthen the financial and capital base of the business. Between 2020 and 2022, we've seen a tremendous amount of change that's happened in the business. We raised more capital by way of rights issue, and in 2020, as alluded by the chairman, the majority stake in UPDC was acquired by the Custodian Investment PLC group, and the company continues to be steered by the group. In 2022, UPDC launched its latest project known as the Pinnock Prime, and that led to the return of UPDC to the real estate development space after a certain number of years of absence. So, just to give us a little bit of an insight on who the leadership of UPDC is today. UPDC is currently being led by highly seasoned, well-accomplished professionals in their own right, who have accomplished themselves in their various spheres of industries. And as you have already met already, our chairman is Mr. Wole Oshin. I serve as the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director in the business. We have Ms. Bidemi Fadayomi, who is also an Executive Director, and she's here with us today. We have our non-executive directors, Mr. Adeni Falade, who in himself is a very seasoned professional, Mr. Oyekunle Oshilaja, who is a veteran of the real estate industry, and Mr. Fola Ayeshimoju, who is an investment banker extraordinaire. So these gentlemen and lady steer the vision for UPDC, and we continue to also count on the experience of our very seasoned management staff to lead the company in the next phase. But we can't talk about today without talking about the past, because some people have been here before us, and without their untiring experience and contributions, we won't be here today celebrating 25 years. We've already met him. He is indeed Mr. Stephen Mayaki, who was the founding managing director of UPDC. Please, let's give him a round of applause. And I'm really glad that he was able to make it here physically today. It shows a lot of commitment. Before, during, and after his tenure, he served as the managing director of UPDC PLC between 1997 and 2006. Then we have Mr. Abdul Bello, who served as managing director between 2006 and 2010. He also contributed tremendously to the progress and the success of the business. We have Mr. Akim Ogunero, who served as the managing director between 2010 and 2018, and he was very instrumental in some of the growth phases of UPDC. Mrs. Adeniun Taiwo served for a short period as acting managing director, and she was able to make a good mark during her time as at the helms of affairs in the company. Again, Mr. Fola Ayeshimoju, stepped in between 2018 and 2021, and he was at the helms of affairs when a lot of the restructuring of the business happened, especially the capital raising part of the business. And Mrs. Deborah Nicole Onera served in acting capacity also for a short period at the beginning of 2021. We would like to say a big thank you to everyone who has crossed the path of UPDC, and please, they all deserve a round of applause. Thank you very much for your time and your service. We really do appreciate you. Next slide, please. Can I have you change the slide? We can't talk about UPDC without talking about projects. I mean, we are a property development company, and what we do are projects. So I'm going to take us through a few highlights of some of the projects that the company has accomplished in the last 25 years. And this is just going to be a photo reel just to show us a few things that we achieved. So we've done several launches over the years. So these pictures show the launch of our Emerald Court in Abuja. It's a highly successful lifestyle product in behind Apple Legislative Quarters in Abuja. Highly successful, sold out, and is currently doing well on the secondary market. We have a golf estate that was conceived and started in Calabar in Cross River State. These pictures show the launch of that project. Next slide, please. We also have our Pineville estate in Asaba, which was launched in 2014, and is also completely sold out as we speak. Next slide, please. In 2016, UPDC decided to redevelop an arm of the then Golden Tulip Hotel, and created a residential block out of it called the Residences. Also sold out, and it's just next door to this facility where we're having the summit today. Next slide, please. James Pinnock Place in Lekki was launched in 2018 and is a mix of several typologies of properties, from apartments to townhouses to detached houses, and it's also one of our successful projects. Next slide, please. So over the years, we have too many to count, of different projects that have been successfully developed. And this is just to show the pedigree of UPDC as a business, as a real estate development company. We've delivered projects in almost all the different asset classes, from residential to commercial to retail. And we continue to do more as we step into our next 25 years. Next slide, please. So, as said before, the VMP plazas, for instance, the Festival Mall, this hotel, the UAC complex in Abuja, are just some of the many different projects that the company has successfully delivered over the years. Next slide, please. So, we just don't do projects as well. We are also a company that is very, very vast in financial management and services. So we've been able to successfully conclude several rounds of capital raising. And why is this important? Real estate is a capital-intensive business. And without the right kind of capital, you can't succeed in this business. So this shows that UPDC has the depth of resources. And as a publicly listed company, we have access to capital. So our customers can continue to rely on our experience and on our capacity to do a lot more going into the future. In more recent times, we are back on the development scene. In 2022, we launched our landmark project in this new era, known as the Pinnock Prime project in Lekki. Please, a round of applause. So this is a site and service scheme in Lekki Peninsula 2, where we have low density and high density plots. On the low density plots, we can build semi-detached houses, and on the high density plots, we can build blocks of apartments. And we have our colleagues out there. Before you leave, you can learn more about that project, and you can key into that project as well, or you can tell somebody to tell somebody about Pinnock Prime. So this is my short presentation about the journey so far. I'd like to thank you for your attention, And during the course of the day, I would like to interact with us more on how we can do more business with UPDC. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ojo, well done. Amazing storyline. So if I had any doubts as to how big, how amazing this company is, all my doubts were cleared. When Mr. Mayaki mentioned Niger Towers, so I've known about Niger Towers. It didn't just click that it was built by UPDC. I was there a couple of months ago with some clients, and if it was built that time, wow, it's amazing. Really spacious, 3 and 4 bedrooms, amazing facilities, the greenery, the aesthetics. UPDC, you've done so well. Back to a couple of things that the MD mentioned. I like when he mentioned that we are back with the Pinnock Prime Estate. Congratulations, and we're willing to jump on board and chop part of that 5% brokerage fees. 5%. 5%. Can we have another round of applause for them, please? They've done so well. So well. So, to one of the primary reasons, apart from networking, launch, and to celebrate with UPDC, is to come and tap from the wealth of knowledge from these amazing speakers here today. So I'm already enthusiastic, and I'm sure, from what I hear, that are going to be with us for 6 hours between now and like 5:30 p.m. We must tap everything from Uncle Frank's knowledge, Mrs. Renu, Mr. Alan Davis. We must tap everything. 6, 7 hours. Uncle Frank, 7, 8? So I would like to gradually invite them. Okay, so let me invite the MD, Mr. Ojo, to come and present or invite the guest speakers, and he would also be moderating this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Akin. Please give Mr. Akin Okpatola another round of applause. So, it's my singular pleasure to welcome us all to the Real Estate Summit section of this 25th anniversary celebration. And I have the pleasure in welcoming our distinguished speakers. It wasn't easy assembling this caliber of speakers, and we are very pleased to have them here today. So I'll just read a short citation on each of our speakers as they make their way to the stage. So they say ladies first. So I'm going to call on Mrs. Anne Reno, who is the Regional Head of Property for Standard Chartered Bank West Africa. Please, a round of applause as she makes her way to the stage. She is a property expert, so don't let her looks deceive you. She's a hard-nosed property expert and very vast in her industry. Next, I would like to call Mr. Alan Davis, who is the Managing Director of James Cubitt Nigeria. Alan is an institution all by himself in this industry, having been in Nigeria operating in different capacities over the years. He needs no introduction. Then I would like to call Mr. Frank Okosu, who is the Senior Partner and Chief Executive Officer of Knight Frank Nigeria. Knight Frank is the foremost property services company in the country. So welcome, Mr. Frank Okosu. And the last but in no doubt not the least, Mr. Olutomi Shogowawa. Mr. Shogowawa is the Surveyor General of Lagos State, a highly experienced land surveyor, and there's very little land transactions in Lagos that does not have Mr. Shoguwawa's footprint and fingerprints actually on it. So you're welcome to the panel. My humble self, Odunwayo Ojo, I'm going to moderate this panel. I'm going to be asking them a few questions. So thank you very much. So let's get into the details. We are talking about a very important issue in the Nigerian real estate sector, which is housing development imperatives for Nigeria, prospects and challenges. And we are going to be dimensioning this topic by examining different areas of housing, different challenges that are being faced in the industry, and how these can be surmounted. So I'm going to start my first question to Mr. Frank Okosun. It is estimated that there are several millions of housing deficits in Nigeria. Can you discuss some of the challenges of home ownership in the country and strategies for overcoming them? Yeah, you can.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Like he has introduced me, my name is Frank Okosun, the senior partner of Knight Frank Nigeria. Once more, congratulations on your silver Jubilee celebrations, and we pray you get into the Golden Jubilee by the power of God. I've been very, how will I say it? Steve is my very senior colleague. He was a Knight Frank before, and I have gotten a lot of transactions from UPDC, and I've also been blessed with your kind of development, you know, and once more, congratulations. We all know housing deficit, an obvious place in the housing industry in Nigeria. Especially, is confronted with the low-income families who don't have access to homes in the cities. Regardless of what, because I heard what the chairman was saying about 28 million, you have proof to all those things, regardless of the deficit figures. There's a significant gap between the stock we have and the quality of housing that means international standards. So we're looking at affordability. And of recent, the deficit has dropped. Schools of thought that even the minister said there is no deficit in housing stock. Quotes me, and you quote him as well. When you have homes locked up in the villages and everybody is in cities, we saw it in books again from recognized institutions that these same figures have jumped recently from 22 million or 20 million, 22 million to 28 million. I don't know where the chairman had gotten his own deficit positions, but I know from recognized institutions, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, International Human Rights Commissions, they are quoting some figures. But the other school of thought has proposed that for us to get out of this deficits, we need trillions of naira. We know as UPDC, you have finance gurus, you can plan you can raise funds to be able to offset these deficits. The major challenges why we're here that is facing home ownership in Nigeria today. We need to look inwards very well. As developers, you guys have to come together. The first important thing is the building materials, the cost of building materials. We saw what the dollars is doing. We saw what inflation is going. The purchasing power of home buyers, of home owners, is contrasting. Apart from looking at all this, what are we looking at again? What is the mortgage, the poor mortgage penetrations? What is the government, or what are we doing about the poor mortgage penetrations in the financial markets? The residential market today, the mortgage market today, debt to our GDP is about 0.5%, which is no affordability to the low-income families. And again, you're into constructions. You construct in these stages as regards affordability with poor mortgage penetration. Then apart from affordability, my very good friend is here. He's going to talk about land and restrictions as well. We've seen what has happened with land and restrictions in Nigeria today. As owners of properties, government's symbolic inaptitude to registering those properties in a concise manner has led to high cost of constructions. Sometimes your property will go to court, have fraudulent land grabbers, I will call them, and ineptitude of government in registering these land titles. Still boil down to the cost. But, ladies and gentlemen, but we need to have some creations. We need to have an affordability. We need to change our ways. What are these narrations? For us to have access to homes, to home ownership. UPDC don't deal with low-income earners. They deal with the high. They deal with, they're not for the masses, but there should be a strategy that UPDC should come together with other developers to create a narratives. How do we do these things? Create some local materials that will reduce initial cost of acquisitions, operational costs. Then look at other finance model. We heard of recent the new Pension Reform Act, who wants to encourage and sustain borrowers from taking funds from their savings. So these few things we have to come together, form a society, pressurize the government, create an affordability for us to be able to have access to home ownership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Mr. Frank Okosun for those insights. My next question goes to Alan. And it is that as an international real estate professional and architect, what changing trends are you seeing in customer preferences regarding housing and development in general?
Thank you. It works. Well, thank you very much, first of all, Odunayo, for inviting me to participate. 25 years is incredible, and I wish you well for the next 25 years. When Steve was talking, I was remembering that I think my first contact with UAC was when Ernest Shonikan was still MD, so that's some time ago. So looking at trends in the housing sector and in the real estate industry in general, it's painfully apparent that everything comes down to cost. That is not just in the cost of construction, but also in the cost of servicing and maintaining buildings. Globally, the Russia-Ukraine war is causing spiraling energy prices, and post-COVID inflation is affecting world economics, with the prospect of an looming global recession to exacerbate the situation. So reducing the initial cost of development and the ongoing cost of servicing and maintenance is more critical than ever. Furthermore, developers are rightly aligning with shifting global values towards sustainable or green housing developments in the light of the climate crisis. Growing numbers of consumers are interested in sustainable buildings, and research carried out in the London market found that there is up to a 12% green premium on such developments. This move in the direction of sustainability obviously impacts beneficially on the cost of the servicing of buildings. I can also see the likelihood of a return to more environmentally responsive design in housing, particularly in the tropics. The Victorian colonial masters got it right when they laid out their government residential areas all the way down the west coast of Africa, such that the roads were predominantly lined east-west, so that when the narrow windowless ends of the buildings that suffered the low rays of the rising and setting sun, whilst the long glazed frontages of the houses, shaded with deep eaves, allowed the cross-ventilation of the north-south breezes to cool the internal spaces. In fact, their planning was so sophisticated that they even gave a little tilt to the gridiron layout to acknowledge the fact that the winds were coming not from the north to the south in the dry season, from the south to the north in the wet season, but from the north-northeast to south-southwest, and vice versa, as seen in the orientation of Kingsway in Ikoyi and Independence Avenue in Ridge in Accra, and I'm sure many other cities in West Africa. With global warming and the need to save energy costs, it is inevitable that we will see a return to these environmentally responsive design principles in the near future, bolstered, of course, by modern high-spec, low emissivity, double glazing, and sophisticated shading systems. At James Cubitt Architects, we're proud to have been advised that we are well on the way to being awarded the first LEED Platinum certificate in Nigeria for our Afrex Bank building in Abuja, which is just coming out of the ground. In talking about trends in the housing market, our development company, James Cubitt Developments, is, of course, involved predominantly in mid to high-end housing, not low-cost solutions. In Nigeria, there seems to be a continuous growth in demand for short-stay apartments in cities such as Lagos. For longer-term rentals, the growing young population has resulted in a growth in demand for 1 to 2 bed apartments or in larger co-tenanted units where a tenant can cohabit with 1 to 2 other people. Apparently in London, prominent shared accommodation providers have recorded waiting lists for up to 40% of the spaces that they have. This trend is inevitably going to have a beneficial impact on the middle income market in Nigeria of young professionals and first-time buyers.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Alan. I mean, when I said Alan was an institution, it wasn't an understatement. So thank you very much for those insights. Very comprehensive response. Really appreciate that. Now we move to Anne, who is the money woman on the stage. And as we know, financing has been identified as one of the major impediments to the delivery of housing in Nigeria. So, what are the contemporary financing strategies being adopted by industry players today?
Thank you very much. Okay. First of all, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, UPDC, for inviting me today. I echo Alan's comments by congratulating the institution. It's indeed an institution, and we pray another 25 plus years in the industry, not just sustaining, but obviously leading. I think that's very important. So in response to your question, I think the truth be told, financing is the bottom line. Without financing, we cannot sort of go anywhere. So you talked about contemporary, and I think most people are very aware of commercial loans, that developers can find. It's a traditional method of construction loan. You get a loan, a mortgage from a PMI or a commercial bank at rates, competitive interest rates. But I think they're quite restrictive in life today. A lot of banks are not really playing in real estate in that great deal, and it's not. So it's a lot to do with the due diligence that is required. But I think it's the more non-conventional methodologies that we really need to look at. So beyond mortgages, development finance, bridging loans, buy-to-let financing, second charge mortgages, and the various options that are, and for development finance. I think we need to sort of move away from those commercial restrictive ones to begin to look at things like opportunities with angel investors, where you find accomplished individuals or companies investing in startups, really looking at opportunities where they would often want equity in the project or convertible debt. The significant advantage of the investors is that they're not afraid to invest in projects with high risks. This is usually, it's underpinned by track record of the organization. UPDC is a classic example, and I'm sure that you're already looking at that model of investment today. Off-plan financing, I think that's one that has been tried and tested in the environment. The early bird discounts lures investors and individuals into the projects, with initial equity of 20% or thereabouts. And obviously that spread over the milestone of the development. I'd also like to sort of look at other mediums, diaspora structured funding. We know that the diaspora market has a significant contribution to the Nigerian GDP and economy. I think that there is real scope now to actively develop that market in a structured way where organizations can now begin to get single digits closer to 3, 4, 5% in construction financing. The other area that I think I'd like to talk about is collaborations across the supply chain of construction development. So where everyone sits in the room, from the construction design consultants right through to the procurement team. So you're looking at your steel company, you're looking at your concrete construction, you're looking at your fit outs. They bring an equity to the table, but a lot of this takes a lot of relationship building over time, and once it's tried and it's tested, a formula would emerge, and that way round there's clarity around the stake in equity and the return on investment that each supplier wants or vendor wants in participation. I'd like to also touch on green bonds. It's really also an opportunity to raise funds for projects, particularly as we move into the era of sustainability and the fact that a lot of funds are out there, particularly with the ESG requirements. If that scheme can actually demonstrate sustainable developments, there are global funds out there. COP27 really spoke towards that. There are opportunities that organizations can now begin to tap into. And I think in the Nigerian market, we now need to go out there and source funds globally. I'm just sort of going to close out on sort of looking at another commercial mortgage type activity that I feel that we need to look at. Green buildings. Again, I think Alan mentioned they're looking at getting a LEED rating certification for Afrexim building in Abuja. There's no reason why we can't apply that to our residential real estate portfolio. So if there is a mechanism out there, apart from LEED certification, there's even the AFCH certification. And all of these certifications really means you have something you can go to the banks with to actually generate funding for projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and a round of applause. Another in-depth treatment of the topic. So we really appreciate your insights. And so to Mr. Songowawa, the government is a key player in the use and allocation of land in Nigeria. And access to land with clean title has been described as one of the most critical success factors in housing delivery. So what policies are being put in place by government to improve access to land?
Thank you very much, MD. I'm also delighted to be here. My name is Olutomi Songowawa, the Permanent Secretary of the General Lagos State. And it's wish to extend my gratitude to the management of UPDC and to congratulate them on this auspicious day, the Silver Jubilee. And we wish that they will continue to be in existence for many more years. We all know that there are many companies who probably may want to be like them too, but like you pointed out, they are the only ones still on the stock exchange. But we know that there are a lot of many private property developers. I attended the program, real estate developers, a couple of weeks ago. And even in Lagos, there are over minimum of 1,000 companies operating in that space. It means that many of them are yet to get to this level. Because until you go public, that's when all your activities can be well scrutinized. Private company, you can do whatever you like, sell property to whoever you like, and have your thing going on the side, so long as you follow the laws of the land. But as a public company, a lot of scrutiny goes into your operation. Yes, the land use decree gives the governor of the state control over our land in the state. But we know that even in Lagos, Lagos is the smallest state in Nigeria. We're all aware of that. 3,600 square kilometers, which means that population of arguably about 24 million or more. Concentration per square meter is quite high, which means that pressure is exerted on land and all facilities surrounding it. It is the responsibility of government to ensure that all its citizens live well, reasonably, and that all cadres of the society are catered for. We do that in ensuring that people have access to title to land. Primarily, there are two sources of ways you can acquire land, either privately, through families, and those who have indigenous title as recognized under the land use decree, and through government within the government reserved areas. But we know that in the last couple of years, there have been landmark decisions that have threatened the role of government in moderating the society. Many of the government revocations and acquisitions have been challenged. Some of them, for one reason or the other, have had issues with it. But we know that without the government intervention in that space, not a lot can be achieved. The best societies are societies that are formed on order, which mostly can be guaranteed by government, because it is not left to individual innocencies for that to happen. Government gives certificate of occupancy to every developer so long as you meet the basic requirements whether either through allocation, like I mentioned, or through acquisition of land by private treaties. Once you do that, you either obtain your governor's consent on assignment, or you obtain deemed ground consent, which all is based on survey plan, which is either made for you by your surveyor or by the government, Office of the State Surveyor General. But we advise that before you acquire any land, seek the services of a surveyor so that you know exactly what you're going into. A survey plan that is produced is meant to guide you in a number of ways so that you have an idea, even if you are not on the site, to see the futures that are available on the site, so that it can help your designers, your architects, and your engineers. Or we know that government has what we call development plans, area, action area, model city plans, which tells you what you can do within some defined areas. So if you want to put up a factory, you don't go putting that up next to a residential estate, which will impact on the health of the people. And if you are putting the commercial development, you don't put it right in the middle of residential areas, which also negates the principle. Because we have, as many have complained, go to a residential area, see a church or a mosque, and they are not quite, what's the right word? They are not quite, they don't quite, they need to reduce the noise pollution they do. So we all have a responsibility in ensuring orderly development. Because the essence of all we're doing is to ensure that we have a livable society that we're all proud of. If you go home, you will stay in a neighborhood that is friendly, secure, you can recreate, you can do a lot of things apart from just resting. And when you want to go to your work area, work in an environment that is also safe, to ensure that you are productive enough to ensure that you provide for your family. So the basic tenets of is to ensure subsistent and consistent administration of land so that there is security in tenure in what you are acquiring and what you are passing on. Lagos State government, after so many years, have done what we call the land administration, automatic land administration. We spent close to 13 billion naira in achieving it. It's quite easy to just say we will do a mushroom arrangement, but the state, knowing that it's a center of excellence, always ensures that what we're bringing onto the table is consistent and is good enough and is of best practice globally. So very soon, it's already on board. All you need to do from the comfort of your home, you post in your document, and that will be received by at the back end, and your document will be processed. You don't need anybody running around, and you have a 30-day limit in which that will be done for you. It's already started, but a formal launch will come up anytime soon. But it has already been in operation for the past 1 year. See that there have been a lot of changes in the way things are going. But we know that there's still room for improvement. And what we want to ensure is to make sure that whatever we're delivering to the public is good, is consistent, and in accordance with best global practices. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Mr. Shonguwawa. Thank you for those insights. I think this is information that we can use. You know, I think I'm glad to see that there's a lot of initiatives, you know, coming on, especially in Lagos State. So thank you for that. So we go back to Mr. Frank Okosun. Just give us a little bit of some insight into how technology is currently playing an increasing role in development and management of real estate. What can we expect to see in the technology space and how it relates to real estate now and into the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. We know technology is the in thing now, is an enabler of transformation. All the changes you require is all about technology. You know what's happening in the build-up space right now? We see what developments are going on. And we see the approaches in real estate management. And I'm sure you as key players in this industry, you're embracing what we call technology in your facility management, in the way you do your business, and the way you run your process. I'm happy to announce a month ago, we had a breakfast roundtable to discuss the future of real estate, construction, and technology as it affects the build-up industry. And we have key speakers, we had resource people, stakeholders, and you were there. I knew you got able to hand your next a lot of input on that scheme. And I'm particularly proud of the tech community we have today. And they have developed homegrown technological solutions to our process. And we can see some of this software out of the Chef softwares, our digital search engines. We've seen what they have put in place. Even us in Knight Frank, when we're valuing assets that we have to use discounted cash flow, we go to technology, the MRI, the Argos. Like your malls, we need such technology software to do an accurate discounted cash flow for you. So there's a key opportunity for us in Nigeria for us to embrace what we call technology. And that is the way to go. For more effective use, for us to harness what we want in a faster way. You as a developer, you agree with me, you require the GIS to be able to acquire a new land for effective development, to tell you, what is the size of land? What can I use with it? And that is a geographical information system software you need to adopt. So if we in the country are not embracing technology in the world, then there's a problem. So we need to go back to our roundtable and see how we can muster this for our future. We know innovations are quite expensive. Is the best way to go with technology know-how. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frank Okosum. Please, a round of applause for him. I think, without a doubt, you ignore technology today at your own peril. Technology has come to stay. As a matter of fact, thousands of people are watching this summit virtually. Some years ago, that may not have been possible. So this is one of the ways in which technology is transforming how we do things. So thank you for that insight. Alan, there's an enigma called affordable housing. And that's something that a lot of people are interested in. People all over the world, it's a challenge to deliver affordable housing. And same for Nigeria. So as an architect, what's the role of design in the delivery of affordable housing and how to efficiently deliver this product line in this industry? Thank you.
Can I ask first of all, can I use your microphone to avoid the crick in my neck? Thank you very much, Odenayo. Okay. Well, affordability of housing, like most other things, is determined by many macroeconomic issues beyond architecture. And so we can talk about the idiosyncrasies of Nigeria, such as reduced purchasing power because of the high interest rates and minimal mortgage options available, the import-based economy, the lack of local production of building materials and components, and the unreliability of stock quantities or the scarcity of materials, etc., etc. But there are nevertheless significant ways in which architectural design can influence the affordability of housing. Obviously, the adopting of the tropical design principles that I mentioned before demands a particular awareness of the designer, but it's not inherently difficult. In addition, though architectural design is very much project or site-specific, there are some aspects which can be standardized and reproduced. When we consider industries like the automotive industry and how they manage production costs, we see that parts of the whole, especially for the large-scale projects, can be standardized and manufactured by mass production processes. The designer working with these standard pieces then has the liberty to creatively apply them to respond to the idiosyncrasies of any given site. Obviously, the most commonly used aspect of this is in the production of precast concrete elements. The mass housing program in the UK, intended to respond to the overwhelming housing shortfall immediately after the Second World War, relied mainly on the use of precast reinforced concrete panels produced in factories and bolted together on site. Dolphin Estate is an example of this, utilizing prefabricated precast panels. And with the development of more sophisticated materials and detailing, one would hope that the downsides of Dolphin, such as damp and condensation, can now be avoided. Australia has developed a whole industry for the production of prefabricated housing in response to the need to house miners in remote locations out in the bush. I was fortunate enough several years ago to be sent to Australia by NLNG to investigate this option to satisfy their residential needs at Bonnie. We found that by purchasing standardized knockdown prefabricated housing units from Australia and shipping them to Nigeria, we could reduce the cost of building from $4,000 per square meter to $950 per square meter. Interestingly, our sister practice, James Cubitt Architects in Brisbane, has recently designed the new Australian High Commissioner's residence in Abuja, which is to be prefabricated in Australia in knockdown form and shipped to Nigeria for erection. Of course, remembering again the colonial days, the ships that were sent out from England to take slaves from West Africa to the New World were not sent empty. They were loaded with the elements of the prefabricated knockdown kit houses that we all know and love so well as colonial houses, but which sadly are rapidly disappearing from the GRAs in Nigeria. One example that does remain and has been lovingly restored by Legacy is Jackal House in the railway compound at Ido. I'm sure we all know that. These are classic and historic examples of the benefits of prefabrication, which are reduced cost, accelerated construction programs. Speaking still on the affordability, providing for graduated access to property is another great way of achieving affordability. One of the ways which is prevalent nowadays is when a developer sells just the shell and first fix to the end user. First fix being the plumbing, pipework, and electrical conduits that have to be passed through concrete slabs and blockwork walls before the cabling is done. The building purchaser can then gradually complete the building to his own taste, at his preferred cost, and at his own pace. All these options require the designer to have specialist knowledge and experience in a broad spectrum of aspects of housing, from, at the one end of the spectrum, the master planning awareness to achieve low running costs by adopting tropical design principles, and at the other end of the scale, understanding the special space planning on the one hand and detailing on the other required for design of prefabricated housing. Finally, I cannot leave the subject of the role of design in the delivery of affordable housing and efficiency of delivery of real estate projects without talking about the significant role that software in the design process is increasingly taking, as Frank has been mentioning before. I'm an architect who is trained in the art of producing pretty but information-packed drawings. I've never even used a drawing board, let alone a computer, in the design or drafting process, but produced all my drawings from master plans down to full-size details, freehand and in pencil. Okay, so I'm a dinosaur. But it must have been about 30 years ago, and well before our sister practice in London, that we in Lagos trained all our architects in the use of AutoCAD, which was basically a simple computer drafting tool. Later, possibly 10 years ago, we trained all our architects in the use of Revit, which is more sophisticated drafting software, with all sorts of additional tools such as 3D modeling and the automatic coordination of designs across disciplines to avoid clashes between, for instance, mechanical engineers' ducts and the structural engineers' beams. The latest development in software is BIM, which is short for Building Information Modeling. Whilst Revit was the start of this, it has of late become much more sophisticated. BIM is the management of information through the whole life cycle of a built asset, from initial design all the way through to construction, maintaining, and finally decommissioning through the use of digital modeling. It's all about collaboration. That's collaboration between engineers, owners, architects, and contractors in a three-dimensional virtual construction environment, and it shares information across all these disciplines. Building information modeling allows design and construction teams to communicate about design, coordinate information across different levels in a way that has not been seen before. This information remains with the project from before beginning construction right through to its entire lifetime. There's no doubt that this will provide the channel for more efficient design, construction, and management of buildings, leading to cost savings at all stages of the project and hopefully a better quality product. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. A round of applause, please. I just felt like I was in a lecture room where I'm learning with every single statement that Alan has made. So thank you for that insight. Appreciate it. And so in the year 2022 has seen a return of high interest rates and rising costs across the world. What are your thoughts on how these economic headwinds can be managed in the delivery of housing in Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, Alan is a dinosaur, but listening to BEAMS is really delightful because we're exploring that certainly at Standard Chartered Bank, and it's really demonstrating efficiencies. We're using that for our building in Côte d'Ivoire at the moment. So we will share notes on that. To respond to your question, I believe the headwinds are an opportunity for developers to try new frontiers. Indeed, we're all struggling through the looming global recession. We're struggling through post-pandemic challenges. We're struggling through high interest rates. We're struggling through the exchange rates in Nigeria, which we all know around the room, and so many more challenges, including the impending elections. The economic gloom can also be seen as an opportunity from where I sit. And this is because whilst high interest rates are not translated into our income or revenue, we need to sort of be more creative. I think that survival now will be based on the level of your creativity, experience, innovation, technology, and more than anything else, resilience. Some things that I sort of noted to this question is really looking at our construction methodology and construction in the city centers. I mean, it's interesting to see UPDC spreading its wings across Nigeria, but really we also need to move from the urban areas into non-urban areas where hopefully cost of land is a little cheaper. Alan talked about prefabricated homes. It's not new technology, but it's evolving technology. So it's interesting to hear $900 per square meter for a package that can be shipped. What I'll be more excited about is we bring the modules in the country and we actually develop them in the country. I think that is the way forward. I saw something recently in Alaro, which you're probably aware of. I think that is the way forward. So the parks come into the country and they're set up and you're just literally rolling it out. I was involved in a similar scheme in Accra, in Pram about 5-6 years ago. So it's not new technology, as I said, but we need to look for the most up-to-date that works for our market, because sound insulation, thermal insulation, all the various components need to be right as part of the design solutions. I'd also talk about joint ventures, evolving partnerships with registered landowners. Again, that's an opportunity where we can actually reduce the total cost of construction as close as 40% on a project in instances. I started by talking about creative design focused on hybrid new ways of working. Post-pandemic, many of us are now aware of the fact that, we're working from home and we're working from the offices as hybrid models. Recently, I think Twitter announced yesterday or 2 days ago where 40% of its staff are going back into the offices. Now, what are we designing in terms of our housing markets, and how does it reflect the next generation, the generation who literally and looking for flexibility in live, work, and play environs? So are we designing our buildings to respond to a generation where they're expecting technology innovations in their buildings. They're expecting facilities that actually ameliorate their lifestyle. So I think those are opportunities we can now begin to look at, So we develop housing for various needs, right from sheltered housing for the elderly, luxury housing for the high end, and so for and even for the the younger generation who have a different concept of what units or what developments they want to see. So how are we modeling those? So this is an opportunity, in my view, to actually respond to the headwinds. We're in a world of metaverse. How are we adopting that medium to actually sell our properties, lease arrangements? We look at our contract management. Are we adopting contracts that are being sealed in cloud? And again, when we talk about the facilities themselves, what sort of options? I think I heard you talk about Start Right. Being a JV with Start Right in your power or energy solutions. Again, how can you move that joint venture into something very creative? So looking at solarizing your housing estates, using external facades of the buildings themselves. These are not new technology. I think Sterling Bank has certainly tested that. We're on the journey with that in our head office in Nigeria. Let's think about even the generators, moving away from generators to alternative renewable energy solutions, including gas. So when we speak to technology, I think Alan talked about beams, which I was also going to mention. Look at your facility management. Do you want to continue to manage those things? Currently in Standard Chartered Bank, we've outsourced it to supply partner relationships, and that, where it's very intuitive, but you actually begin to see the rewards in terms of the risks and management of your portfolio. So I think that despite the headwinds, there are critical opportunities. We just need to be flexible in our approach. We need to be ready to test the waters and create solutions that are win-win in the housing sector. Thank you.
A round of applause for Anne. Thank you. It's a challenge. I think challenge accepted. We'll see it as an opportunity and then flip it. So back to Mr. Songowawa. We've all heard about public-private partnerships, and that's a concept that's gaining a lot of attention in recent times. Can you just discuss how PPPs, as they call them, can be used to overcome some of the challenges we encounter in the housing industry today? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lagos State Government has been one of the pioneers in houses using the PPP arrangement. Any of its agencies, LSDPC, or even through the mainstream.
Thank you. We all know of Orange Island. We know of Gracefield Island. Those are some of the newest developments that are obvious on the market. And they are brought about, initiated, and completed through the PPP arrangement. So the government, even on the mainland, many of the housing estates, many of the staff quarters have been redeveloped using that model. So the state is actively working using the model. But they all have different advantages, but it frees a lot of capital from government to be able to be used for other social amenities. Because as we all know, housing is actually one of those low-hanging fruits that government can engage developers, especially in highbrow estates. The areas which we have had setbacks or which we have not been too successful, maybe in the semi-urban areas, because in Lagos we have no rural area. But in semi-urban areas, the achievements have not been as rapid. But if you look at nearly all the estates we are delivering now, we are adopting that model because that is the way to go. Government cannot go it all alone. It allows government to regulate. If it brings in the private sector, they know what the market looks like. We're working together, we achieve a lot instead of working against each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause. Thank you very much for that insight. So we're gradually winding down this segment of the summit. I'm going to pose a general question to all the panelists. So I'm going to start from Anne, and we'll make our way around the podium. 2023 is an important year. It's an election year in Nigeria. It's also another year where some of the headwinds that Anne has discussed will be felt. And we need to see how we can navigate the landscape. So if you can just please give your views on the outlook for the real estate sector in 2023, and what prospects do you see for investments and opportunities in the industry in 2023?
Thank you very much. So the reality is that it's looking tough from where we all sit. We're going to need to adjust like every other sector, shrink our margins, continue to be as positive as we can, and make the most of where we find ourselves. So I sort of caveat my thoughts around that. Over the next year, analysts have projected an increase in the value of global investable real estate to grow by an average of 5.2% annually to exceed $85 trillion, and Nigeria is therefore no exception. The investment rationale for owning real estate remains attractive. It's still a very strong asset class. I believe these headwinds and tough economic climate will bring rise to a new advent in real estate investment. If we think about most recently the pension-backed mortgage policy designed to reduce the bottlenecks associated with equity contribution, i.e. the down payments for home loan seekers, I think that if that conversation is pushed post-elections in 2023, it will result to a good outcome for the country. Also, the proposed improvement in mortgage laws to protect lenders and borrowers. This will give more comfort to lenders with regards to foreclosure in the event of a default. Again, I think that's a real opportunity that would stand the real estate sector in good stead. Most states have started adopting digitized title registration processes to expedite the collateral management arm of home ownership. And this will in turn boost lenders or investors' confidence in the space, given the rise in more homeowners. I think also thinking about non-conventional funding opportunities and collaborations, prop tech is really big now. We really now cannot sit still. Rent Small is a prop tech organization. They recently raised $3 million in seed funding from Techstars in Toronto through an accelerator program. I also am aware, even more recently, Construct, all small players are really, they raised construction and procurement funds. I think it was $600,000 first tranche, to look at a procurement app for vendors and construction contractors. Again, if you go down the Yaba corridor, the cohort corridor there, the Righty, they recently also launched the Slice Pizza equity investment model opportunities where you can actually own investment in a slice model. So there are various new ideation that is coming forward, and I really think we're going to move away from the conventional method of funding, of investing, and really looking at real estate in a different light. Funds for green developments, green bonds, as I talked about earlier, sustainable design, that's the way forward. And if we begin to think differently, we will survive beyond 2023 with a better real estate platform. A thought crossed my mind as I was coming today. As we move, the commercial real estate world, there's been a great outturn in grade A buildings and a great uptake as well. So what happens to the grade B buildings? And we have quite a number of them that are commercial and which will soon start getting empty. There's scope there for conversions that make sense in strategic locations. And, those are opportunities we now need to begin to consider in really driving the direction and trajectory of real estate. I know that it all sounds gloomy from where we all sit, but if we sort of rise above, and I'm really enjoying what the next generation are doing, a lot of them are becoming more creative, using technology, using information, gathering data that makes meaningful execution of real estate. I'll stop at that. Thank you.
Well done. I don't know. I think when I think of the opportunities in the coming year, really there has to be a way of making business easier to carry out in Nigeria, because I inevitably am involved in the field of commercial architecture to a large degree. And also very largely that involves companies coming in from outside, investing money in property here. And I know they all come and reluctantly say, no, we're an oil company, we don't do property, or we're a shipping company, we're not in the property business. But inevitably, they are in the property business because they have to rent accommodation. And if they've got any sense, they go and build accommodation. So it's got to be easier for Nigeria to encourage people to come in and invest. And I think that obviously I'm not in a position to know how that can be done, but government has got to address it as a very serious issue in the incoming regime after 2023.
Thank you. I think the way we're looking at things is improving access to data, improving ease of doing business in all ramifications. Access or security of tenure, ensuring that, and ensuring quick mobility with the delivery of the red line and the blue line means that you can live a little further away from where you are, which is going to be less expensive, and you can still be as effective. So the congestion of the city center, which is what is driving the prices up, and then people can move more into the hinterlands where they have wider or bigger spaces. You can live more comfortable in those areas, and then still get to work and return safely. Thank you very much.
It's a global outlook. It's an election year. We have to sit and watch. Investors in real estate have to wind down gradually. We in the real estate sector, our projection is we need to look what the economy will be for the next 6 months. And what are we going to do? There will be transactions, but not as the kind of transactions we are seeing every other day. Election periods are always over with a lot of things happening. There might be some transactions off the table to encourage other people going into elections. But we're in this business for the past 22 years. Our democracy is strong, and our economy, the people coming in for the next 6 months, we want to look at the projects they've been campaigning about. They will look at the outlook. They'll look at how do we restart what we are going through. So we are looking at an economy that will be more strategic for us to be able to come out from where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to the panelists. I think they've done justice to the topic of housing delivery in Nigeria, prospects and challenges. So I believe we'll take a few questions from the house. So if we can have a roving mic, 1 or 2 questions, you can direct it to any member of the panel. Do we have any questions online as we round off this session? Okay, we have a question from Alhaji. Please, Alhaji, introduce yourself and your question. Thank you.
My name is Badebo Olatokumbo. I've listened to the experts. And when we talk of financing estate business, it's costly. Is there an institution that is working on the sort of raw materials that we have here that were cheaper? Because in America, for example, there are some buildings in some areas where they have wood, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, Frank, you want to take that?
Yeah. Thank you, Alhaji. When I was talking about accessibility for affordability, I talk about the real estate company, the development company coming together to annex our local materials. And they would develop what we call a research unit to look at what suits a particular construction. In developed countries, like we say, like they will talk about prefab. I remember in those days in Dolphin Estates, when the HFP started, they came with prefab. And those houses went for as much like 200,000 naira. Even in some construction today, and there's a construction firm that is adopting the prefabs. Each bungalows are less than 100,000 in construction. So if the development and the property development company come together, they form a society and annex our local materials, it will reduce our cost of construction. And there will be affordability for the low-income people who can have access to these properties than those looking for increase in mortgage transactions and the rest. So we just need to harness the developers together, form a research, find out what kind of materials will suit a particular location, the soil text, and some other areas, so that some of these things we don't have issues with. And that is my own view on what you're talking about on local materials. Thank you.
Okay, perhaps I'll add to what Mr. Frank has said there. I think it's quite sad that in Nigeria, even in today's world, we row our boats. We're very isolated and we're very myopic in how we actually collaborate. I'm not aware, so it may be that it exists. But I mean, even from the lower end, I do recall about 6 years ago when we were, conceptualizing the Eco-Atlantic. And they were talking about wood. Initial concept was that they would import, until someone raised the fact that, but we have so much wood in Nigeria. And the conversation was around who is treating the wood and, what's the lifespan of the material. And so the company was sort of forced to invest in indigenous wood manufacturers in Ibadan. I recall going with them to Ibadan and I think Osogbo. And today, all of the wood that is being done within the flats is coming from there. That's one company. And there's no reason why UPDC should not be being leaders or even in harnessing, bringing industry players together to begin to look at research, working with the universities and working with institutions. I'm sure some organizations will fund that sort of research so that we can begin to actually develop our own products and respond rather than sort of continue to rely on importation. And that's where the government is going, quite frankly. And, we have no choice now. I mean, post-2023, that will be the way forward in my view. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those responses. We have another person with a question. Please give him the roving mic. Thank you. Introduce yourself, sir, and your question.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Ahigbemidu. I've listened to the presenters, and they've touched on many issues. And it has been mentioned about the deficit in housing, how to achieve affordable housing. When we look at the value chain, there is one critical aspect that I'm concerned about. And luckily, Surveyor General is here. That is the land, the cost of land. Yes, the state is, like Lagos, is opening up, but the same thing is not happening in other areas, in other states. You find the contribution of land cost to development is quite enormous because land has become a store of value to a lot of people. And in most cases, after you have acquired the land, the design tries to look at what can be saved. What can we really do about this? Because in some areas that the development that we are looking at have to, you find that it's feasible to do it, is because they have some infrastructure. A large portion of the states, you will find that you don't have that kind of infrastructure. So the concentration of activity is in a very small area. And that is why the land values are getting up every day. The senior partner in NIFRAN can also help us here, because when we look at the value chain, what can we do to really bring down the land cost? Even if you have prefabricated materials, when you bring them, they are going to be on land. And it contributes so much to whatever we are doing. And to the Surveyor General, what can be done for the state to actually open up new areas with infrastructure so that it be attractive? For example, you have the new rail line that is being built. If those areas that are in the suburb, they have access from those rail tracks, then it means a lot of people will want to go there and develop in that area. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Frank. He has the mic, and then we'll go to the Surveyor General.
Steve, thank you very much. When we talk about accessibility or affordability to land, what is land? Land belongs to government. For us to have easy access to this land, we need to talk about how will government provide infrastructures to these areas. Open up areas. There are people living in Ekpe. You see what Alaro City has done in Ekpe. But if government provides all the needed infrastructures, cost of land of going to that area, and all the infrastructures in place in all new towns, like in my state now, in Edo State, I see what my governor is doing. He's annexing all new towns, providing all the infrastructures. So land becomes cheap, becomes accessible to investors. So without providing these infrastructures, there's a problem of accessibility. And the prices still keep on going on. And that's why you find in our earlier discussions, we're talking about high cost of land. What brings back high cost of transactions is the value, initial acquisition of the land. So if we reduce, government comes in and provide the needed infrastructure, the value chain in these transactions will be easy. Cost of operations, initial cost of acquisitions will go down. So you won't find people putting ₦1 million per square meter in Ikoyi that you cannot defend in your valuation. There's no way you can defend that. Because what are the comparables? What are the comparables? We're looking at Banana Island today. What are driving those things? If the government provides good other gated estates like that, will that value not come down? No, I'm saying. But government is shy about it. My colleague is here. So that's where we're going. In other developed African countries, forget broads and erect things. In Kenya, Rwanda, there's a price for all the land. You can access and see the rates. So until we have government commitments in trying to change the narratives, we won't go nowhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The government is quite aware and is actively, not just doing, actively involved. But what we are not doing is just direct. We're doing, just like Mr. Ojo mentioned, we're doing most things now through PPP because we believe that government alone cannot do it. And then there are differences in taste. In order for you to deliver what the people need, you can't say one size fits all. One size can never fit the taste of Lagosians. We know that. Just like we're seated there, some are wearing blue, some are wearing black, some are wearing agbada. So that is the way Nigerians are. We like things differently. And government is doing that consistently. We're looking at the red line, we're looking at the blue line. When all that comes into play, with all the initiatives of PPP ongoing all over the state, it is not only in Lekki or VI that we have this. Ikorodu, we delivered close to 1,000 houses. But it's not making news because it's not in Lekki. But people are living there. And they have very good accommodations that have made best standards anyway. The ferry is there for those who can, who still, even though we are encouraging, Nigerians still don't like moving on water. Whereas if you're in Ikorodu, it's just a 10, 15 minutes boat ride. And the ferries are very safe. But we prefer to take our SUV and go from Ikorodu all the way to Lekki. But there are easier ways to doing things. So we must change. Those narratives must start from here, encouraging people to change their lifestyle, because that's only what will be sustainable in the coming years. And of course, like we said, the land tenure system, which is what is probably contributing to the housing shortage. People hold on to the houses. Most places all over the world, you have holiday homes. When you are stepping up in the economy or your lifestyle, you move from one type of development to another type. And as you go older, you downgrade. But we don't do that. We hold on to every property that we have, because we want to bequeath it to our children, who at the end of it, they will probably not even live in Nigeria, and they will sell them off. So why don't you increase the housing stock by letting those houses out? So we need to have a lifestyle change just as we grow older, because without those lifestyle changes, we can't impact effectively on the housing development. Thank you very much.
Okay, I just want to add a little bit, and thank you, Mr. Songowawa. You actually stole some of the thoughts I had. It's not a government-alone conversation. You know, there's so many PPPs. I live in Lagos, so I try to make an effort to understand what Lagos state government is doing. And by the way, they're doing a great job. I was at Enigbeti a couple of weeks ago, and if anybody doesn't have it, try and get hold of the Lagos State 50-year development plan. It actually does articulate quite a lot of the plans and the government has, and they're very great opportunities one can key into it. But I wanted to speak to infrastructure and also lifestyle. But I'll start off by talking about knowledge and being aware of what exists. You know, you talked about Ikorodu, Ekpe, there's so many new developments, infrastructure land, site and service land. If you go to Badagry, the new seaport that is being birthed, you know, there's just so many opportunities there. But land value is often is a symptom of demand and supply. That's the fact. And unfortunately, a lot of the pricing is also influenced, I'm choosing my words carefully, influenced by agents, because some land values that we see today bears no semblance to the location, to the infrastructure, and to what the future effectively of that location is. So I think we all have a role to begin to talk about this very openly and challenge it in a way that we have sensible pricing going forward. When we look at the public-private partnership arrangements that are in place, developers really need to begin to sit intuitively with the respective state governments and begin to, agree what contributions, if you like, towards the infrastructure, so that it becomes less expensive going forward. And finally, just around the conversation around lifestyle, I really I applauded what Mr. Sangowawa said about we have so many obsolete buildings sitting all across Nigeria, many of them abandoned, many of them closed. I recall there was an action, I don't know whether it was actually a policy or law, where in Lagos State, if you didn't develop your obsolete properties within 2 years, the government took it over, either through compulsory purchase or whatever it was, and developed it. These things really need to be properly policed, because it will actually reduce blight, but actually begin to bring down the values of real estate land. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to all our panelists and all those who have asked questions today. So I would like to say a very big thank you for everyone for contributing. I think it's been an exciting session. We've learned a lot. There have been very deep insights into this topic. And we want to continue the conversation. So the conversation doesn't end here. Please feel free to engage any of the speakers before you leave, for those who are in the room. And for those who are not in the room, please, we'll be happy to hear your comments. You can interact with us. You can go to all our social media handles. You can go to our website. You can email us your questions and your insights, and we will be very happy to communicate with you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anne. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Mr. Songowawa. Thank you, Frank, for coming today. I appreciate it. Thank you. Round of applause once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Can we have the chairman, sir, join us on stage? Can all the speakers and the moderator still remain on stage? We have little goodie bags the chairman would like to present. Then we'll go for the photo shoot. The management team of UPDC should also get ready so that they will also take photos. Okay, so I understand we'll take photos first before we present the... Okay, you can present it. Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Alan Davis. Thank you so much for your fantastic insights. Secondly will be Mr. Songowawa. Mrs. Anne Renu. Thank you. Then last but not the least, we have Mr. Frank Okoso. Thank you very much, sirs. So I'm sure everybody had such an amazing, insightful session. Can we have one more loud, resounding applause for all the speakers and the moderator, the MD? So to give the vote of thanks, I would like to invite the Development Director, Ms. Bidemi Fadayomi, to give her vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed. I've been asked to give the vote of thanks for today's event, and I'd like to start by thanking the chairman, Mr. Wole Oshin, for his vision and foresight for the company. I'd like to thank the CEO, Mr. Odunayo Ojo, for his inspired leadership. I'd also like to thank the entire board and management team whose passion and commitment will continue to make UPDC an unstoppable force in the real estate market. I'd like to thank the panelists for taking the time to celebrate with us today. We thank you for your vast experience and insight into the housing market. I found the discussion extremely interesting, and it raised a number of issues which need to be further explored. As we said, we stand on the back of those who came before us, whose hard work and diligence we continue to build on. We thank them for their service. Last but not least, I would like to thank our customers and clients, without whose support and faith in UPDC we could not exist. We promise to continue to create products which are good quality and competitively priced. We look forward to the next 25 years of UPDC. We appreciate all of you who braved the traffic to come and join us here in person. We truly appreciate you, and we wish you a safe journey back home. Thank you all so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll leave shortly. Just give us a few more moments. We have packs for everyone. As that is going on, we'd like to also invite the board. UPDC board should please come on stage for their photographs. Thereafter, we'll have the management team. They should get ready for their photographs. Thank you. UPDC management, please. Staff and management, UPDC on stage. We're bringing the anniversary, the amazing anniversary cake right on the high table, right on stage. But if there's anyone that has ever worked for UPDC, please, you're invited to the stage, please. If you've ever worked for UPDC, you're invited for photographs. So can we have all past and present UPDC staff on stage, please? Okay, past first. I beg your pardon, past first.